And the U.S. is barreling towards a federal government shutdown now just hours away.
As Congress has failed to pass the stopgap funding measure and both parties are locked in a high-stakes standoff. Democrats and Republicans, they remain at an impasse over funding negotiations.
The U.S. federal government is on the brink of shutdown at midnight Eastern Time. Funding for many federal agencies will lapse unless Congress acts. The Senate rejected a Republican-led stopgap funding bill intended to extend the government operations through November 21st. The bill failed to secure the 60 votes that is needed in the Senate to advance. The vote among Democrats was nearly unanimous against the bill.
But why didn't the funding measure pass? That's the question. The divide is over healthcare. Democrats insisted that any funding extension includes restoration of Affordable Care Act, that's the ACA subsidies, and reversal of cuts to Medicaid. Republicans resisted this, arguing that the funding bill should stay clean without policy riders or added healthcare mandates. One Democratic proposal, which was a $1.5 trillion alternative, would have allocated about $350 billion to extend expiring Obamacare tax credits and reverse nearly $1 trillion in planned Medicaid cuts. And that proposal itself failed in a Senate vote of 47 to 45.
Well, next up, let's take a look at what this shutdown can mean on the ground for workers and for the American public. Now, the Congressional Budget Office, CBO, estimates that up to 750,000 federal workers could be furloughed daily. Lost compensation is projected at around $400 million per day in unpaid wages.
But some essential services will continue. Air traffic controllers, TSA screeners, federal law enforcement and critical safety inspections must operate even without funding. Still, unpaid workers and furloughed staff may strain these operations over time, leading to delays, cancellations or safety bottlenecks in aviation, permits, regulatory oversight and even more. The Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, would furlough over 11,000 employees, about one quarter of its workforce, even as 13,000 plus air traffic controllers are required to work without pay.
Now, the TSA may see disruptions. Around 50,000 of its personnel might continue working, but without compensation. A shutdown could cost the travel industry as much as $1 billion per week in lost revenue.
Republicans, including Senate Majority Leader John Thune, blame Democrats for blocking a clean funding bill, as mentioned earlier, and Democrats counter that Republicans refuse to engage on healthcare provisions and that the GOP insists on a take-it-or-leave-it approach.
President Trump, on the other hand, has threatened irreversible cuts to benefit program if no deal is reached. Labor unions have sued the administration's Office of Management and Budget and Office of Personnel Management, challenging directives to prepare mass layoffs or reduction in force during a shutdown.
Now, the unions argue that such threats may violate existing federal law, especially the Anti-Deficiency Act, which bars spending without appropriation. Currently, talks remain stalled. Democrats are unified in their opposition and Republicans insist on their own terms.
And for more on this, our correspondent Susan Danani sent us this report from New York.
A partial government shutdown seems imminent, and if funding lapses, non-essential federal service will halt and many federal employees will be furloughed or go without pay. The Congressional Budget Office estimates up to 750,000 workers could be affected daily, costing hundreds of millions in lost wages. Key programs like public housing support, unemployment report, as well as regulatory work may be disrupted or delayed. Also, air travel and aircraft safety may be impacted through parts of the FAA. But beyond the operational chaos, a shutdown also hands extra discretion to the White House to ultimately decide which agencies stay open and which fall silent, potentially reshaping budget priorities long term. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World.